All right, so what are you expecting from Jay Powell when he testifies on Capitol Hill today? Again, we got our Fed policy decision just a few days ago, but at the same time, we've heard a lot from Fed officials. I'm talking about Michelle Bowman, also Christopher Waller, kind of edging towards the potential for a cut in July.
Look, I think Chair Powell is going to reinforce the message that he had last week, which is that there's a great deal of uncertainty. And I think he's going to say in that degree of uncertainty, it is not surprising to see a range of perspectives. And the last thing he'll say is, it is probably too early to contemplate a cut, though there will, as he will have to point out, there were a number of people who thought they might get 2 cuts this year, but very few, I think, are going to join Chris Waller and Mickey Bowman in thinking it's going to be July.
When we're looking at Israel, Iran, and potential U.S. involvement, potentially beyond the strikes that already happened over the weekend, how does the Fed factor that in? I mean, there was potential for oil prices to spike. A lot of people thought they would. And instead, over the last week, I'm looking at WTI, it's down double digits.
Look, I think there are 2 things going on here. First, there's a general sense of uncertainty, and that the Fed has already talked about for sure, as frankly waiting to see that clear. And then there's a very specific what happens in the region. And as you point out, thus far, fortunately, oil prices haven't spiked. I think the Fed will watch closely to see what happens. But right now, I think there's just a broader set of macro uncertainties that's weighing on them. This is adding something to that, but I don't think it's becoming, at this stage, the pivotal point of conversation.
What about tariffs? We still don't have a resolution when it comes to the quote-unquote Liberation Day tariffs. There's still not a final deal when it comes to China, so that uncertainty is still an overhang. If you're Fed officials who are, again, edging for a cut in July, does that mean that you've already decided that the majority of the impact of tariffs has already been factored in and it's kind of a speed bump that we're now over? Or how else do you think they're seeing it? Because it doesn't seem like we know the full effect yet.
Well, certainly we don't know the full effect. Chris Waller in the past has said that he expects the impact of tariffs to be, very temporary. So I think he is one of those who's sort of looking past it. On the other hand, I'm not sure that's the consensus for sure. And at the last meeting, people took note of the fact that the number of people thinking no cuts this year had gone up. And so the whole question of tariffs, I think, is being assessed differently by different members. And I think Chair Powell sort of indicated that as well. So while Chris Waller and Mickey Bowman have started to be clear about their points of view, I'm not sure at this stage that they're speaking for the vast majority of the committee. And I think Chair Powell is going to have to try to point out that uncertainty still seems to be what's weighing on most people's minds, and consequently a wait-and-see attitude as opposed to getting ready for a cut in July.
Roger, I want to kind of pull on some of your other area of expertise when it comes to CEOs. You're a former CEO yourself, and I know through the Business Council you do a survey with them. You're often talking to a lot of CEOs. How are they viewing the Israel-Iran conflict, U.S. involvement? How are they planning their businesses with the idea that there may be this kind of geopolitical tension out there?
Well, look, the last survey I did for the Business Council and the Conference Board showed a dramatic drop in CEO confidence. As I recall, roughly 82% thought that there might be a recession sometime in the next 6 months. Most of them certainly thought if there was one, it would be mild. This degree of uncertainty that is weighing on them, I think, certainly hasn't changed very much with the geopolitical uncertainty. There's good news about what seems to be a ceasefire, but even that is a little uncertain. So, look, all of this, I think, is just pointing in the same direction. The word uncertainty, I've used it many, many times because I've heard CEOs using it many times. And if one does a word cloud of CEO descriptions of how they're feeling right now, the word uncertainty certainly is the one in the middle of the screen, largest and boldest. And none of this has helped clarify any of that uncertainties at this stage.